next question?
Yeah, the next one. Okay. Oh, it's another good one. This comes from Freddie. Hey guys, I really enjoy your podcast. On a recent episode, an emailer mentioned Dragon Age Inquisition. I was struck by the reference because it occurred to me that I hadn't thought about the game in months. It seems to have faded out of consciousness very quickly, despite the fact that it's a true AAA game. It was hotly anticipated, it sold well, and the reviews were strong, even excellent. Yet it clearly hasn't captured the imagination the way other games have. Compare it to The Witcher 3, a game that's similar in many ways, and it's not even close. Do you have any theories why? My own take is that it's a classic example of a AAA title that's way too cluttered. Too many systems, too many grinds, too much crafting, too much busy work. But I think the deeper problem is that it just lacks soul, that special something that makes a game truly memorable. Thanks for everything.
Interesting.
Yes, interesting question. Something we have talked about several times.
Yeah, well, so I disagree with the premise that it lacks soul, because
Same.
thinking back to Dragon Age Inquisition, there were so many memorable moments in that game, like when everyone was singing and when you did the companion quest for Iron Ball, really all of Iron Ball, or like when you go downstairs one night and your entire party is playing cards and there's that great scene of everyone. So I think I definitely disagree with the premise that there isn't anything memorable about that game. So this is an interesting one because I was actually talking to a lot of people who made Dragon Age Inquisition for a top secret project that I can't talk about.
Definitely can't talk about it.
And I can't really get into too many details, but short version, I think they all recognize a lot of the problems that it had, which are the hinterlands is like those problems personified. It's like too much elf fruit everywhere to collect, too many busy work quests to do, too many go kill 10 bandits or go push this ram across the screen, that sort of thing. So I think they're very aware, and I think a lot of that team is looking at The Witcher and being like, holy shit, look at all these awesome things that The Witcher does, which makes me really excited for the next Dragon Age and whatever else comes out of there, because I think those people are really smart and they're really in tune to what's going on and what The Witcher did better than them. But the thing to consider, and I don't know how many people actually think about this when they're looking at that game, is, first of all, it was the first ever next-gen RPG, the first RPG on PS4 and Xbox One, so it kind of was setting new ground there. But second of all, and this is the important point, it was released on both PS4, Xbox One era and PS3, Xbox 360 era, and I think that they weren't able to do a lot of the things they might have wanted to do, or a lot of the things that The Witcher was able to do because of those constraints.
I've thought about this a lot. I reviewed both games. I was very positive on both games. At this point, I'm clearly much more fond of The Witcher than Dragon Age. I'm still playing The Witcher. I'm playing The Witcher for a third time. I've never done that with Inquisition. I played it once on PS4, and then I kind of got other games going on PC, but never, really got back into it. There's a reason for that. I've thought a lot about the differences between the two. And I do think that some of those differences are due to what you're talking about, Jason, the technical issues and the limitations of last gen. It's really interesting.
Not all of them, though.
So I also disagree with Freddie that the game didn't have soul. I think it really did. I think it has some really amazing characters and some really great moments throughout. And that game had a lot of heart, and the people who made it loved it. And that really comes across, and that's one of my favorite things about a game like that. It's just when I can tell that the people who made it really love what they made, and that the writers love the characters, and that there's just this there's a lot of love in that game, and that definitely is there. It's funny, so many people complain about that game as sort of this corporate product that was created according to a spreadsheet.
Really?
It was a complaint about it, that it just has all this stuff added to flesh it out and pad it out. And then
to me, it's the opposite thing. I think it was the opposite of a corporate playbook. It's just like an overreaction to Dragon Age 2. That's how it comes across to me. It's like, oh, in Dragon Age 2 we didn't have all these quests, so now we're gonna add a billion quests. That sort of stuff.
And I guess it's, and even that is calculated. It seems like the complaint against the game is that it's calculated, and I think some of that does come across that way. Oh, you want side quests? Okay, we're gonna put 1 million pointless side quests in. But also there are so many good side quests. I remember there are cool dungeons you can find that have unique quests built into them. They tell this whole story if you read the books that you find around, and you find this weird artifact that there was this one building where time is frozen. Remember, it's like that Zelda dungeon, and there's some really cool shit in that game. And then of course the side characters. Think about how great Iron Bull and Dorian and I don't know, at
Yeah,
any
that's
of the
the thing,
characters
and that's
in
the
that
thing
game
that Witcher 3 doesn't have, is that whole companion element and building a party and having companion quests and like kind of getting to know your
yeah,
companions.
it's a very different thing. And I think so. When I think about The Witcher, there are a couple of things that I draw differences between the two, where The Witcher so clearly pulls ahead, and I think it's why people still talk about it. One of the reasons is that The Witcher is much more contiguous creation, where Dragon Age does feel very fractured, and I think that it suffers for that. When I think of Dragon Age, I think of all these different, very disparate locations, because everything in that game was so far flung. The map would send you to one place and then another totally different place, and you kind of got the sense of how they were connected, but they didn't always feel that. At least in my memory, they don't feel connected. I basically picture the hinterlands. And you remember, I feel like you and I talked about this. I know I've seen a lot of people say they thought the hinterlands was the whole game, because it's so big.
Yeah, well, I never did, but I remember writing. I mean, I wrote an article right as the game came out saying like PSA, leave.
Get out of there because you can stay there forever.
And it's gotten so much like Google traffic over the years because people are Googling like hinterlands.
What's the deal?
And also I get emails to this day from people asking me about and being like, how do I leave the hinterlands, stuff like that.
So
I heard actually that they added a messenger afterwards in a patch to come up to you if you spend too long in the hinterlands and say leave.
That's good. You don't have to be here. There are other areas. Yeah. So I think that compared to The Witcher, where it's a contiguous world, you do have to leave the map to go to a couple of places, but generally the main map is just giant ass thing that you explore, and it feels so remarkable as a result. Even though Dragon Age is really big, it's huge. Each area is huge. I remember there was a point in that game where I just thought this game is never going to end. It's this unbelievable collection of stuff, and I loved that about it. But in it suffers in the memory for that reason, I think. So that's one reason. I also think, and I don't think this is that controversial, but I think that Dragon Age peaks in the middle and then it really falls apart toward the end, and that is a big problem with that game. Is my memories of that game are entirely the first half. I don't even really remember what the hell happens in the second half, or I do, but because I had to go read up on it to play the DLC that sets up the sequel. But there's a lot of stuff with the elves and that magic mirror and Morrigan and like everything after that ball you go to. That's just like, what the hell? And then there's this kind of like anticlimactic fight, which again I think some of that is probably related to the technology. Where The Witcher is the extremely rare mega budget AAA game that gets better and better as it goes. You and I were just talking, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but this game, you think it's going to end, and then it doesn't, and in fact it reaches one like narrative climax and then keeps going, and it builds to a really brilliant ending that I thought was like genuinely affecting. I thought it was really cool, and it's an ending for all these characters that we've gotten to know over this game and the trilogy.
All right.
So I'm saying
Spoilers.
This game gives you a great ending, and then also has this DLC that expands the world and gives you new places to go. It really, like, in that way, it feels so like this big coherent thing that landed, where Dragon Age feels
so
like
ultimately
just like
the
more
problem
scattered.
is that the problem is that Dragon Age was a great game, and then Witcher was kind of like a once-in-a-generation game, and we're directly comparing them because they came out a few months apart, but I don't think we're going to see a game like The Witcher again anytime soon.
Not until Cyberpunk. I think, I think that we compare them because they're very similar. They're both...
Yes, but also because they came out so close together, and because they're both kind of the marquee... nobody is... Like, I don't think Fallout 4 even compares to Inquisition or to Witcher 3. And there aren't any other big budget...
Well, actually, I don't know. I can't remember if we wrote this article. I think maybe Luke did or somebody did. I have voiced the opinion that I could not get into Fallout 4 because of The Witcher 3, because they came out so close to one another. And
No. When I said it doesn't compare, I mean it's not nearly as good as either of those games.
Oh, yes, right.
Like, I would say Inquisition and Witcher. So what we're really...
I get it. I get what you're saying.
We only have a point of comparison. We have a very limited point of comparison because there are very few open world RPGs. And I don't know if Final Fantasy 15 will count as one of those. It might be a little bit different and hard to compare to those. I think it probably will be.
Three. Honestly, like a game, one of the rare games that compares to The Witcher 3 is more like Red Dead Redemption, I think. That's a game. And that game also feels remarkably coherent and has a really brilliant ending and, kind of channels a lot of the feelings that The Witcher did. And Dragon Age doesn't. But even
Red Dead had all these side quests that kind of didn't go anywhere and didn't do anything interesting. There were a lot of little mini quests that just kind of ended.
I guess. I mean, it's not, it's obviously it was a generation earlier than The Witcher, and it's a Rockstar game. It's very different, but in some ways, it's one of those games though that feels comparable and comparably rare.